Alan smiled and my stomach turned. Not because he said something rude. Not because the moment was awkward. But because when he laughed, his whole face twisted into mine. His top lip curled the exact way mine did. His dimples sat in the exact same place. And for the first time in 17 years, I remembered something I had buried so deep it made my skin crawl. My baby's due date was the exact day Alan was born. I stood in Carla's kitchen with a mug of lukewarm coffee trembling in my hand. She was plating cinnamon rolls, playing the role of the perfect older sister. Alan leaned back on the couch in the next room, tapping on his phone, probably texting some girl who had no idea the blood in his veins was not hers, not even Carla's. Before I continue, I want to say a massive thank you to all our subscribers. If you are new or have been watching but have not yet subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It is what fuels this channel and keeps us going. And do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Now, let me take you back. My name is Tara, I am 34 years old, and I live in Anchorage, Alaska. If you have never been here, it is not just cold, it is lonely. The kind of place where silence gets inside your bones. I know isolation because I lived it, long before I ever returned to this icy place. When I was 17, I got into a car accident that should have killed me. I was pregnant then, 6 months along. When I woke up from the coma, Carla was by my side, holding my hand and sobbing. She told me I had lost the baby, that there had been complications, that the doctors did everything they could. I remember feeling like my body had been hollowed out, like I was a broken shell and nothing more. I stopped talking to my friends. I could not stand mirrors. I flunked out of school. And Carla? She took over. She paid my hospital bills with help from some mysterious savings. She moved me into her guest room. And when I moved away a year later, trying to find a life that did not hurt, we lost contact. Until 2 months ago. She called out of nowhere, cheerful, casual, pretending like 17 years had not passed in silence. She asked me to come up and meet her son. Said his name was Alan, 17 years old, born the same week I lost my baby. I told myself I was being paranoid. Trauma rewires the brain. I had spent years in therapy being told to let the past go. But when Alan smiled, when I saw my own face flicker back at me, I could not breathe. I asked Carla, gently at first, when exactly is his birthday? She stopped mid-step, a plate in her hand. Her voice cracked as she said, June 3rd. My baby was due June 3rd. I stared at her. She looked down at the floor and whispered, What are you trying to say? I did not answer. I just walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and vomited. I could not sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling in Carla's guest room, feeling like the walls were getting closer. The silence was thick, like it knew something I did not. I kept hearing Alan's voice in my head, laughing, talking about his favorite subject in school, how he wanted to go into medicine one day. His voice sounded so familiar. Not in tone, but in rhythm, in energy. It sounded like mine. At sunrise, I drove to the pharmacy and bought a home DNA kit. I told Carla I needed some fresh air. She barely looked up from her laptop when I left. She was acting too normal. That kind of calm only comes from someone who knows they are keeping control. I offered Alan a soda later that day and told him I was doing a school project on genetics. I laughed it off and said I needed a cheek swab for extra credit. He shrugged, smiling. Sure, Aunt Tara. He called me Aunt Tara, and it cut like a razor. When the results came back 4 days later, I could not even open the email at first. My hands were ice. But when I finally clicked the message, I did not need to read the whole thing. I only saw 3 words. Probability of maternity, 99.99%. My heart stopped. I gasped so hard my ribs hurt. Then I screamed. Not because I was shocked, but because I already knew. I had known since that smile. I drove straight to Carla's house. I did not knock. I walked in like a woman who had nothing left to lose. She was in the kitchen again, like always, baking something sweet like she had not stolen 17 years from me. I slammed the paper on the counter. Explain this. Carla went pale. She did not even touch it. She looked away. I thought you were not ready, she whispered. Ready? You told me my baby died. I was shaking. You named him, raised him, lied to my face. Carla finally broke down crying. She told me the doctors were not sure if I would ever wake up, that the baby had to be delivered early, that I was unconscious for weeks. When I finally opened my eyes, she said, I looked hollow. She said I was not asking for the baby. She said I would not have survived the truth. She said she raised him out of love, that he was better off not knowing. I wanted to hit her, but I just stood there, frozen. You played God, I whispered. You stole my life. She reached for me. Tara, please. I stepped back. Do not touch me. That night, I sat in my car outside her house with the heater running. My hands were gripping the steering wheel. One part of me wanted to forgive. The other part wanted to destroy everything. Alan was not just her son. He was mine. I spent 2 days staring at that DNA report. I kept looking for a crack in it, some mistake, some tiny loophole that would make it all go away. But it was real as the stretch marks I hid under my clothes, as real as the grief I buried and called healing. Alan was mine. I rehearsed what I would say to him over and over. I imagined him laughing, hugging me, calling me mom. I also imagined him slamming the door in my face. Both fantasies crushed me. On the third day, I knocked on Carla's door. This time, Alan answered. He smiled like always. Hey, Aunt Tara. I cut him off. We need to talk. We sat outside on the porch, wrapped in jackets, watching the Alaskan trees sway under gray skies. I handed him the DNA results. He skimmed them slowly. His expression shifted, confusion, disbelief, then fear. This is not real, he said. It is, I whispered. You are my son. He stared at me, shaking his head. No. My mom is inside. She raised me. She never said, because she lied. He stood up fast, knocking over the chair. Why are you doing this to me? Because someone already did this to both of us. He ran back inside. I sat there, frozen, waiting. 20 minutes later, Carla came out, eyes red. You had no right, she said. No. You had no right, I shot back. You watched me grieve a child you knew was alive. You could have told me any year, any moment, but you enjoyed the control. You got to be the hero while I was left with the scars. You want to destroy him? She snapped. He has a good life. He does not need this chaos. No. He needs the truth. He needs me. She tried to guilt me. Said I would break him. Said I was being selfish. She even threatened to say I was unstable, that I had a history of depression. But I did not flinch. I filed for custody. The court battle is still ongoing. I know the odds are against me, but I do not care. I will fight for every visitation hour, every phone call, every single second I was robbed of. Alan does not call me mom. Not yet. But he texts me now. We met for coffee last week. He asked questions. I answered all of them. We cried. Carla says I ruined her life. Maybe I did, but she stole mine first. I will never get back those 17 years, but I will not lose another minute, because I did not lose my son. He was stolen, and I came back for him. If this story gripped your heart, please give it a like. Comment your thoughts. I read every single one. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe for more true, raw, emotional stories like this.